Hey CFMA, this is Julie Pace, attorney with PSGM Law. What's a question I get a lot? Why do I need to do an I-9 audit? Should I use E-Verify? Those are really important questions. And we always recommend doing I-9 audits. So how do you prevent the millions of dollars of fines that can be imposed on you from ICE when they come knocking, or from the agency that audits E-Verify if you're an E-Verify user? So the first thing we tell you is train the people who actually do your I-9s in your company. They need to be trained. We like to give them a certificate. You can do it by Zoom. You can do it by a group meeting. You can do a lunch meeting, but train them. Don't think they're going to walk in and do that form correctly. Second, have a second set of eyes. When one person does the I-9, have another person look it over and make sure it's fully complete. This is like grading papers back in school. They have to be 100% complete. And that's the key. Otherwise, you're missing documents. That can be a $3,000 mistake. One item on there can be $3,000 missing. The date of birth, not checking the right box. It really does matter to be a really good school teacher auditor on the I-9 forms. Third, keep a tickler list, meaning if everyone has to present identification, that you have to touch and feel the real cards to put them on the I-9 as the employer representative. No photocopies, things like that. It's got to be the cards. You put them down there. They have to be not expired, so they have to be current. But if it's a temporary resident or visa card, that's going to have an expiration date in the future, and you need to keep track in a tickler system. So when you do that, that address will, or the date will pop up, and then you have to go back to the person. We like to do 30, 60, and 90-day letters in advance to tell that employee, hey, your card's expiring in 90 days. You need to go figure it out, come back to us. Then you will do a follow-up section on the I-9 to then let them be allowed to work again. If the card expires and you don't have the updated information or other list A or B and C documentation, they don't have to present the same thing, they cannot work again one day until that's resolved. So make sure to have that tickler system. It's a very most missed item for most people. So Section 1 of the I-9 form is filled out by the employee. If they use a translator, that person has to fill out the prepare a translator section. Section 2 is filled out by the employer representative. And that is where you put the list A or B and C documents. You do not put A, B, and C. You do not put A and C. You do list A or B and C. So please keep that in mind. That's another most missed item. And you want to touch and fill the real card. You want to put the information all in there, and then you don't have to keep the photocopies on those I-9 forms. The other tips we have is do it in pen, not pencil. Again, make sure you sign the I-9 form if you're the employer rep, and it needs to be the person who signs it that actually touched and felt the real card. So that means someone out in the field in construction who's calling it into the office, they can't do that and tell you in the office, hey, just sign it, I'm looking at the card. Either they have to fill it out in the field or they come into the office. So there's a lot of tips about I-9s. Important to do I-9 audits. Make sure you have audit trails if you use an electronic I-9 program. Don't just trust that it's going to work for you. And then the last thing is, there's ways to fix them and correct them before ICE comes knocking. So there's a whole system about that. So don't panic when you go back to your offices and find all these problems with your I-9s, because it always happens, that there's some education opportunity there. And then the last thing to talk about, and there'll be some PowerPoints to help you with this, is how do you do and should you do E-Verify? So we have a whole flow chart in the PowerPoints that tells you exactly the steps, the timing, how it works, and how to do that. So E-Verify is a choice. It's used by some states as a requirement. If you're a federal contractor for construction, it's required. And that's a separate program on top of the I-9. So I-9 first, E-Verify if you use it, and then you take steps accordingly. So I hope this has been helpful. It's been fast and quick, but ICE audits happen all the time. We want to save you money, keep your risks low, so do your I-9 audits. Thanks, and have a great day.